friends, Ed McDonough here. Welcome to Live Stream Wednesday, coming to you from Walpole, Massachusetts, and streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on livestreamwednesday.com. And today, I'm really excited to have on one of my dearest friends and a quote-unquote sister from another mother, my friend, Dr. Cathy Ripley Greene. Cathy is an amazing medium who communicates with loved ones who have passed into spirit, and she helps bring about closure and healing. She has helped bring about closure and healing to hundreds of people. So Cathy, welcome so much to the show. It's awesome to have you here.
Well, it's awesome to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
So listen, this is really cool for everybody to know. So we had like all kinds of technical challenges today, but you know what? That's the beauty of a live stream. So here we are, we're doing it, and I just love it. So Cathy, you know, I want to just start off by, you know, I love you, you're a dear friend of mine, but I know a lot of the folks out here who are watching today don't really know what mediumship is and all about that. So kind of give us just like a brief history on your background and tell us how you got started being a medium.
Sure. Well, I actually think that everybody has what I refer to as senses of the soul. And so I believe that everybody is born with abilities. We might call them intuition, we might call them psychic abilities or whatnot. So I would say that for me, like everybody else, it started right from the very beginning. I probably didn't realize super consciously that I could make connections and get information, that I shouldn't have the ability to connect with, probably until I was in my early 20s. But even when I was very young, I would say things to people that would make them, stand back. Or like my friends in high school would say, you were always telling us stuff, and then it would happen. But it was just like part of like who I was. So the basic history is, it's the way we're all born, and then we figure out how to develop these different abilities.
Yeah, that's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about what's the difference between a medium and a psychic?
That
I
is,
know that's a big question, right?
but it's a great question. So, as I said, everybody is psychic, or you could say everybody has intuition, is connected to it. And there are senses that you would all recognize. And Ed, I know you recognize them in yourself very clearly. So, it's the inner vision, it's the inner knowing, it's that voice you hear in your head that says something to you like, take a left, but you always take a right. But you take the left and you avoid a 5-hour traffic jam or something. And then it's a physical feeling you can have in your body. Maybe you're with Ruthie, your wife, and you're driving somewhere, and all of a sudden you get this headache, and you're like, gosh, I don't know. And Ruthie says, what's wrong? And you're like, I just got a headache. And she's like, oh, I've had a headache all morning. So you're picking up like energetically like her stuff. So those senses are within all of us, and they're in the psychic realm. So what we say is psychic is when we're perceiving things about a situation, a person, a place, something in the past, present, or the possibility of the future. And I also like to say, Ed, it's the AM dial on a radio station. There's a certain bandwidth and strength of the signal. Mediumship is the FM station on the dial, and it is more about a stronger or a wider bandwidth and a strength. And it's when we receive information from what I call spirit, people who have died, people who have passed. And a simple way to say it is a psychic might say, Ed, I see your mom has passed. A medium would say, Ed, I have your mom here.
And I love when that happens, by the way.
Do. For me, every day for people.
So explain a little bit. I want to get in and talk about some business stuff, but I'm obviously fascinated by this and have been and been your friend for a long time. But talk to us a little bit about how your mediumship helps people get some closure and some healing in their life, because I know that's like one of the most important parts of what you do. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I actually am not a fan of the concept of closure, because how can you possibly have closure over anybody that you cared about in your life, who has died? You don't get to see them anymore. You don't get to talk to them. You don't get to love them and be loved by them. So rather than say closure, I like to talk about it, like you said, as healing. And so, for example, my father died 11 years ago. And in the beginning, even though I'm a medium, or just because I'm a medium, it doesn't mean that grief doesn't affect me. So in the beginning, oh goodness, it was so, it was just so sad and so hard. And everybody understands that. And over time, we begin to get used to having these people not in our physical world. So when you connect with a medium, when I'm holding my sessions, it's almost as if I give spirit a voice. And it's a different voice than you might have as a person who doesn't connect with spirit all the time. And I can help people to understand that their loved one is not completely gone. So I like to say, Ed, we are in a different dimension when we die. So you and I live in 3-dimensional world, right? Length, width, height. We can measure everything. And then physicists have told us that the 4th dimension we talk about is the dimension of time. And so you and I are meeting today at 12 o'clock. There's a week, a month, a year. It's very linear. And then there's another dimension called space. You're at your home in Walpole, and I'm at my home office in Norfolk. So someone might say, oh, there's a lot of space between you and Ed, except physicists would say, no, there's no space, because there's oxygen molecules, there's carbon dioxide, there's pollen, there's all kinds of energy waves. So instead there's distance, and that goes back to the length, width, and height. So now physicists would say, oh, there's up to 7, and then quantum physicists say, no, there's up to 11 dimensions. And I read an article that talked about 37 dimensions, and I'm like, you know what? We don't know. And so why are we even trying to figure it out? My point in bringing that up is I like to say that the loved ones that we have that have died are in just a different dimension, but the dimensions all exist at the same time. So that means that wherever the energy of their consciousness is in the same place we are, it's just in a different space. So another way I like to say it, you've heard me say this before, is I'm in my home office, the door is shut. My husband is in his home office on the other side of the door. I can't see him, I can't hear him, I can't feel him. I don't know anything about what he's doing, but he is there. And I believe that's the same thing about people in the past. So the way it helps them to heal is I give spirit a voice, if you will, a way to present to the client, and it allows them to feel, to know, to hear, to understand the energy. So basically, I'm a conduit, and basically, I'm used by spirit to bring some healing. And here are the major things spirit says, I love you, and I know that you still love me. I'm here, I still exist on a certain level, and maybe you can't understand it, but I still exist, which also means when we pass, we're going to exist on that level, as well. And that brings peace and healing. And the only way I say it brings some closure is sometimes people from spirit will want to make amends or apologize or ask for receive forgiveness or give forgiveness. That could be some closure around an issue or an event that had taken place. Long-winded answer to your question.
No, but a perfect answer, perfectly explained. So, so one of the things that you do as a medium is you bring through validation. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think some people, sometimes people think it's real woo-woo, and I'm a real woo-woo person. Some people know that about me. Some don't. I love connecting. I actually, for a period of time, I studied mediumship with Cathy, so I could just better understand the energy for myself and what it represented. Not that I wanted to do what she does, because no one can do it like you do. But because you're the best. So explain to us a little bit about the validation part of it, because I think that's really
Absolutely.
important for people to know.
So thank you for asking that too. So I'm what's known as an evidence-based medium. And I actually think all mediums should be evidence-based. So certainly you could go to a group session where a medium says, "Oh, I see your grandmother died. She says you're a wonderful boy. She loves you." That's just so not evidential. So what we want is we want information, we want facts and figures, we want proof of who spirit is. So here's for example, this was a rather serious call I had just yesterday. A woman scheduled an appointment, and what happened, Ed, was she very sadly had a sister who, way back in 1978, had been assaulted and murdered. So the sister from Spirit gave me very specific information, including names, some numbers that were important, gave me some validation about a vehicle that was involved. And the client, the woman that I was speaking to, she understood. Therefore, because I know nothing about this and I had no idea what she was calling about, this is giving validation. On a lighter, happier, note, for example, in a group session, because I love doing individuals and groups and small groups and large groups, I was able to bring through a woman from Spirit who happened to be a mother to some of the people in attendance and a grandmother to the other ones. And she spoke about her cause of death, what took her to her passing. She spoke about where she lived, where she was raised. She spoke about some very specific foods and some celebrations. And the people in the group understood completely, this is my mother. There's no other person that, Cathy could be talking about. But the fun part, Ed, is I don't know any of it. I know what I'm saying. I just don't know what it means. And contrary to belief, and this because you've seen me work, it's not like, "Oh, hello, it's your mother. I used to love the roast beef sandwich that you made for me." It's more like, I have this woman here. She claims she's your mother. She says she died in May, and she's talking about roast beef, and then they say, "Yes, it's my she died in May. It was her lungs, and she loved a good roast beef sandwich." So
Right.
I get the evidence and the information because, Ed, you know this, but I am a scientist. And I'm a woo-woo, but I like to back it with science. My doctorate is as a chiropractic physician, and I'm retired from that now, but that was a 30-year career. And I love science. And so I like using science to demystify, some of this work.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And that's a perfect lead in to let's talk about the business part of this too. So, you and I, Cathy and I have this little mastermind. We meet just about every 2 weeks for like an hour and we talk business stuff. And one of the things you always say to me is, I really understand how important it is for me to understand my numbers and what's going on in my business. And so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about that business part of it and what those numbers are and what they represent to you and what they tell you.
Absolutely. So, Ed, of course, we've been masterminding for many years now. And one of the things that I learned from you is to go out to the end of the year, figure out what kind of income and the number of dollars that you would like to create, manifest, and generate for that year. And then go backwards and figure out, what does that mean? How much money per month do you have to then gross to net what you're wanting to net? And that then means, how many sessions a month do I need to do? How many sessions a week? How many sessions a day? How many sessions that are smaller compared to medium sized to large ones? How many of those? And I've come up over the years with a recipe of that. I also know, quite frankly, that I have a number in my head that I must make, or maybe we could say need to make. And then I have a number in my head that I love to make, would love to make, look forward to making.
Right.
And the must make, need to make is the bare minimum amount that I need to bring into my household, combined with my husband's, income. And that allows us to live the life that we live and the comfort level that we live, and to, commit to, making all of our financial. And so knowing the numbers is something that I love to do. I love to look at my bank account pretty much every day, not usually on the weekends, but I love to see what's coming in. I check to see if there are any outstanding invoices. I love putting my fingers on the finances a little bit every day. And I will tell you a secret. Recently, well, it's not a big secret, don't get too excited, but recently, meaning in January, I decided to switch my accounting from in my computer to an online platform, QuickBooks. I was so excited, Ed, because this was going to give me the opportunity to invoice people right through my program, which would save me a step, because I'm all about trying to simplify and save steps. Well, it was a really shocking surprise to me, because QuickBooks Online is so different than the platform I was using. Well, it wasn't even a platform, it was in my computer. So it really blew my mind. And I tried to figure out, but my mind just isn't, I'm talking to dead people, like accounting isn't my bag. So just 2 weeks ago, I hired a person that I know, that I trust, a QuickBooks professional, to help me with that. So now I'm going to even be able to understand my numbers more, because I got a little off kilter there. I think it's so important to understand your numbers. And when you understand your numbers, you can figure out how much free time you have. And when you understand how much free time you have, you can tighten up your schedule, and you can make things just work like a well-oiled machine. And sometimes you get derailed and you get off track, of course. But knowing my numbers is important to me, for sure.
So explain to us a little bit. So you have like a mix of business. You do one-on-one private sessions, and then you do some small groups, and then you do some big speaking engagements too. So kind of just give us an overview of how that all fits into making your monthly numbers. Like, how many large groups are you looking for a month, and how many individual sessions and stuff like that?
Right. So I like to do one large group, and a large group can be anywhere from 30 to 200. And the idea of it is my pocket for that is somewhere between 30 and 75. It's a lovely, lovely experience. And it depends. So when I do one type of group like that, I might be having a split of 80-20. When I'm doing another group like that, it might be that I get all the money and I just pay a rent. And then in another case, I might be doing it and the split is 70-30. It's all money coming in, and I follow some of the people's contractual limits, and I'm happy to make 70%, but I'm also happy to make 80%, And then I do smaller groups, family groups, and those can be, anywhere from, 3 people up to 15 or 20 people. And there's a fee, of course, that's larger than a one-on-one, and there's a specific amount of time. And I love doing at least 2 of those a month. And quite frankly, I am looking to do 1 of those per week. It'd be fantastic. And then I have it limited to 2 one-on-one clients a day. And I've limited clients to Monday through Thursday. There's a specific time frame of the day. 2 days a week, I'll actually go into the office and do them in person. And 4 days a week, I'm available to do it on virtual. And then anybody else that wants to do a large group or whatever, hey, you tell me the day, I'll show up. Because I want to be open, to that. But what I've found is having some boundaries around it, tightening it up, makes it a lot easier for me first, because I'm the most important person in business. And then it makes it easier from the people who are trying. So this morning I got a call for a woman. She wants to do a family group. There's maybe going to be 8 to 10 people. She wanted to do it on a Saturday. I said, you know, in the summer, my time on the weekend is precious. How about a Friday evening? You know, so I usually say Friday evenings for like a larger, you know, kind of family group like that. So yeah, it's very calculated, and I can't say one, because who knows if somebody's going to book me that week, you know.
Right,
But I
right.
certainly have that skeletal protocol framework, you know, built, and I do advise that for anybody with any business.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing the way you've done that, where you've just figured out, here are the days that I want to do this, here are the days that I want to do that. And it's cool how the universe just kind of lines all that stuff up and allows you to do that, where you're not just shooting from the hip all the time, and all of a sudden you realize, oh gee, I booked this big group, and then the next day I have all these other sessions back to back, you know, and it's going to be mentally and physically draining to do it that way. So
Well, and you
so I
know,
think that's an important lesson. Yeah, go ahead,
it is
please.
an important lesson, and you know, I learned a lot of it from masterminding with you, because
Mhm.
you know very well, because you were in the masterminds with me. I used to shoot from the hip, you
Yeah.
know, and I used to fly by the seat of my pants. And you know what? It did work for a while until it didn't, you know.
Right.
At when it was years and years ago, and there wasn't as much demand for my services, you know, and then when I was still practicing as a chiropractic physician,
Mhm.
then you helped me, you know, create this system, and it really has worked. And in just over the years, I've refined it and refined it and refined it.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, but also as I go through my life in just the process of aging, you know, there's a place where you start to back off a little bit and slow down a little bit. And
Mhm.
so I'm actually even looking into the future, going, all right, 5 years from now, how much am I going to be willing to do? And because
Yeah.
then I also offer the workshops and classes. And that's what I'm working on now, putting those things into a virtual
Mhm.
format, putting them online, you know, so I can still have the income, but work physically less.
Yeah, and I think it's
I've learned,
important.
I've learned
Oh,
well. Yeah.
yeah, you've done an awesome job. So fantastic. And I think it's also important for people to know too that you also teach mediumship too. We haven't really talked about that, but and that's the classes that Cathy's talking about. So we'll give you her web address in a little bit again so that you can do that. But I want to just ask you one more question before we wrap up here. So give me a give me a really good marketing tip that a service type business like yours, you know, someone who needs to meet and see new clients all the time. Give me just a good marketing tip.
Sure. Okay. I'm actually going to give you three in one. So
Cool.
to the first one to me is you always have to do what feels right in your belly. You
Mm,
can't do something because somebody told you it worked for them, or that, you know, this is what everybody's doing. You have to
right.
do what feels right, you know, to you. The
Mm,
second part of that tip is, man, oh man, I get so much of my business from just doing splendid, wonderful work, and people refer. Don't
mm,
be afraid to ask. So I always send a thank you to people, and then I always add a little thing at the bottom. You know, I'm in a bunch of networking groups, and I always follow up. Always follow up. It was so pleasant. I have a template that I wrote up, and then I insert, you know, things that are appropriate to the day. Follow up is so important. And then that means when somebody says to you, I'd like to just meet with you to consult, how about a coffee time on Zoom? Always say yes. You
mm.
never know what the person might want or need, or who they know who needs or
Right.
wants services. So, yeah, that's kind of like four tips wrapped into one.
Yeah, but that's awesome because it also points out that you have a system for it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
those back end business systems, whether it's you know the planning out your schedule on when you're going to see clients and take time off and do that, or having a process to you know to market to them and take people through. That's so important. You've done such an awesome job of that. I probably never even told you that before, but you know, hearing you say it all
Thank
today, you've
you.
really done a really great job of that. So
Yeah. And you know,
so I'm so proud of you.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I think that like a lot of business owners, especially solopreneurs or, you know, people with, I think what we forget is to also notice how far we have come and to give
Mm,
ourselves, you know, credit for what we've. So, you know, it's like, oh, I'm okay, and then it happens so quickly because you've already got everything created. You know, there's a
yeah.
little copy and add some stuff in there, and away it goes. And people really appreciate hearing from you.
Yep. So Cathy, it was awesome, obviously, to have you on here today with me. And we really do mastermind. We actually have a little mastermind right after this. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So there's your. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you, and everybody watching and who may listen later. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it's been great having you here. Your website's on the screen. I'm going to put up your email address too. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you?
It is the best way for people to get in touch with me. Absolutely. I look at my emails every day, twice a day, and I return them as soon as possible.
Awesome. And for all our friends who are on LinkedIn, they can connect with you on LinkedIn and send you a message there too. Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Good. All right. Well, hang out for a sec. I'm going to put you backstage and just say goodbye to everybody. But I want to thank you so much for being here today. It's been awesome to have you here. And I love you. So I'll talk to you in a minute.
Thank you.
Yep. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. I really appreciate you being here on Livestream Wednesday. Again, we run every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on LinkedIn and on livestreamwednesday.com. So until next week, we'll see you then.
Thanks for watching Livestream Wednesday. This show is sponsored by ECE Marketing Services. If you would like to acquire more prospects and generate more sales from your website month after month, take a look at our automated business systems at ecemarketingservices.com.